What if I told you that this peaceful backyard was built entirely from scrap metal? No blueprint, no fancy tools, just trash, transformed into something unforgettable. This isn't a renovation, it's a reinvention. Welcome to Archon Aesthetic Studio, where we turn everyday waste into extraordinary design. In today's video, I'll show you how I turned junk metal into a dream backyard garden you'll want to recreate. Timestamps are available, so feel free to skip around. And if you have any questions, just ask. If this inspires you, use whatever you have and make it your own. You might see just another video, just another face. But behind this screen is a real family. Every like, every comment, every subscribe keeps a dream alive. You're not just helping a creator. You're giving hope, one click at a time. Thanks for being here. Thanks for seeing me. One, garden edging with used brake discs and metal chains. There's something quietly powerful about giving forgotten things a second chance. These brake discs, once discarded, rusted, and buried beneath layers of dust, now stand tall, surrounding bursts of color and life. I didn't buy them. I didn't order anything new. I simply looked at what was already there, what others had left behind, and asked myself, what if? Each disc was dug into the earth like a soldier of iron, holding the soil, framing the garden. Some had jagged rust. Others had smooth scars. All of them had stories I'll never know. But here, they've been given a new chapter. Then came the chains. Not heavy with purpose as they once were, but reimagined as gentle connectors, wrapping around the garden bed like a soft reminder. Beauty doesn't need to be delicate. Sometimes, it's found in the rugged, the raw, the reused. In one corner, I planted herbs, basil, rosemary, thyme. Their aroma dances each morning with the wind, rising from soil embraced by metal that once roared with motion on highways. Now, silent and still, it protects life instead of rushing past it. In another patch, marigolds glow like firelight against the cold iron edge. Their petals reach out over the brake discs as if to say, "Thank you for holding me." And between it all, gravel paths crunch softly beneath your feet, a subtle soundtrack to this upcycled symphony. This wasn't built overnight. It grew from an idea, shaped by curiosity, anchored in intention. I didn't follow a guidebook. I followed a feeling. And you can do this too. Look around. What are you about to throw away? Could it be the frame for your next flower bed? The edge of your herb garden? The structure for something gentle and green? The world doesn't need more waste. It needs more wonder. And sometimes, that wonder begins where you least expect it, buried in rust. This is more than a garden. It's a reminder that with enough care, enough imagination, even the most broken things can bloom again. Two, DIY rustic pergola using leftover rebar and rusty hinges. There's a special kind of magic in things left behind. In twisted rebar, rusted hinges, old beams. The kind of magic that waits quietly, hoping someone sees the beauty in what it used to be. I didn't start with a grand plan. I started with a pile of scrap, bent metal bars once part of concrete, wooden planks weathered by time, and hinges that had long stopped swinging open doors. But what if they could hold up something else? What if, together, they could shape a frame for something softer? So, I welded the curves. Let them arch like rib bones, not just for strength, but for rhythm. I fastened every joint with hinges that still had one job left in them, to hold beauty together. As I worked, light slipped through the open canopy, and slowly, I saw a pattern. This wasn't just a pergola. It was a frame for light, for shade, for stillness. Then came the plants. Wisteria winding upward, bold and brave. Ivy creeping in like a secret whispered through the steel. Each leaf softening the edge of rust, as if nature was reaching out to welcome it home. And underneath it all, an old bench rescued from firewood. Nothing fancy, just enough. A place to sit and think, to watch shadows shift with the hour, to listen to the garden breathe. This build isn't about perfection. It's about presence. It's about taking things that no longer serve their old purpose and giving them a new one. You don't need polished tools. You don't need to buy new lumber or plan an expensive renovation. You just need patience, imagination, a willingness to look again. So if you have a corner in your yard, a little space that feels forgotten, perhaps all it's waiting for is a frame. Something humble, something rough, something made by your own hands. Because beauty, as it turns out, doesn't come from what you start with. It comes from what you're willing to see in it. Three, wall-mounted vertical planter from broken CPU and wire mesh. They were never built to hold life. These metal shells once hummed with code and circuits, working silently inside homes and offices, rarely noticed. Then, forgotten. But what if the very thing designed to carry power could now carry something even greater? So I took the frames, bare, metallic, lifeless, and gave them a new purpose. I turned them outward, mounted them like windows into a softer world. With every compartment, I tucked in soil. With every vent, I let light in. And the result? A living wall. Not complicated, not polished, but honest. Here, crisp lettuce pushes through mesh. Basil fans its fragrant leaves beside wild mint. These herbs, once confined to supermarket shelves, now stretch into the morning sun, rooted in what used to be discarded tech. I didn't hide the wires. I let them show. Because sometimes, beauty is in the contrast. Steel and spinach, motherboards and marigolds. Life, spilling out of the mechanical. In another corner, blooms cascade from circuit boards, purple lobelia, white petunias, rich pansies. Their softness softens the edge of every screw, every chip. What once ran on electricity now thrives on light, water, and time. And that's the secret, really. You don't need space. You don't need perfection. You just need perspective. You see, the CPU didn't change. It just got reimagined. It still holds energy, just a different kind now. One that feeds instead of processes. One that grows instead of computes. If you've got a fence, a wall, a narrow balcony, or even a single hook, this is something you can do. Start with one. Watch it grow. Let it surprise you. Because the truth is, trash doesn't always belong in the bin. Sometimes, it belongs on your wall, filled with life. 4. Mini waterfall pond with exhaust pipes and old fan parts. Water has a way of calming the mind. of slowing time just enough so we remember how stillness feels. But this isn't a high-end fountain from a catalog. This is a pond born from junk. Old exhaust pipes, once loud, once powerful, now flow gently with water, not smoke. Their rust, instead of decay, now tells stories in texture. It's strange and beautiful how something meant to roar is now teaching us how to whisper. In the center of this garden, you'll find motion without chaos. Wheels built from broken fan parts, once spinning furiously to cool machines, now rotate in rhythm with falling water. They don't just move, they mesmerize. Around the edges, stones rest like they've always belonged here. Soft moss creeps across the cracks. Ferns unfurl. And in the pond's still heart, lilies float beside water lettuce, their roots dangling in forgotten peace. Fish weave between them, unbothered by the industrial frame. To them, there is no junk. There is only shelter, shade, and the sound of flow. That's the real lesson here. You don't need a grand blueprint. You need curiosity and courage to take things meant for the scrapyard and believe they can be beautiful. If you have an old pipe, a fan motor, maybe a few buckets of stones, you're closer to serenity than you think. All it takes is water and a little imagination. Five tiny garden light fixtures from broken LED bulbs and USB cables. The garden, at night, tells a different story. It doesn't shout. It hums. And that hum is made of light. Light that wasn't bought, but built. From things others throw away. These soft glowing bulbs? They were broken. Discarded, dark, forgotten in drawers and boxes. Their wires tangled like regret. And now they shine again. USB cables, frayed and unused, wrap around old stakes, guiding energy to these humble lights. Not bright enough to flood a space, but perfect for filling it with peace. Their glow stretches across gravel paths, between herb pots, over little wooden stools like lanterns that whisper, "You're home." Some hang gently from wooden trellises, illuminating oregano and thyme as if nurturing them with warmth, not heat. Others rest in mason jars, each one a tiny galaxy, trapped and treasured. A row of them lines the walkway, casting long, flickering shadows on garden walls and flower beds. And the best part? None of this cost much. No new plastic, no expensive wiring. Just imagination, and the courage to believe that broken things still hold potential. This is more than DIY. It's restoration. It's resistance against waste. And it's a reminder that light, real, meaningful light, doesn't always come from something new. So try this in your space. Even one bulb can change how a night feels. Even one soft glow can make your garden speak. Because sometimes the most beautiful thing in the dark is the light you made yourself. Six, creative bamboo look fence using old printer parts and painted metal. Some fences are built to divide, but this one, it was built to tell a story. At first glance, it looks like bamboo, strong, tall, rooted in rhythm. But look closer, and you'll see what it truly is. Repurposed metal, old printer rods, worn shafts no longer useful in the machines that once demanded precision. They've been painted, not to hide, but to harmonize. Green for growth, brown for memory. Together, they stand side by side, mimicking the beauty of something natural, but with a history all their own. This fence didn't come from a lumberyard. It came from curiosity, from wondering, what can these forgotten things still become? Each rod, each tube, is placed with intention, some tall, some short, creating a visual rhythm that breathes life into the garden. It sways gently with the breeze, not literally, but in spirit. Behind it, tomatoes climb toward the sun. Herbs lean gently against their steel companions, unaware that their support once belonged to plastic gears and toner. In another corner, slender metal shafts are lined against a pale wall. They rise like reeds beside soft grasses, transforming a narrow side yard into something unexpectedly serene. And further down, where the sun meets green, the fence glows with golden light, its painted metal echoing the warmth of real bamboo, yet built entirely from waste. But this is the beauty of DIY. It's not about perfection. It's about seeing value where others see nothing. If you've ever thought you needed more space, more money, or better tools to create beauty, let this be your answer. You don't. You need only to begin with what you already have, with what no one else sees. Because sometimes, the most beautiful things in a garden are the ones that didn't start out that way. Seven, mini Zen garden with concrete, rusty bolts, and scrap rebar accents. In a world that rushes, I built a place to slow down. It's small, just a corner of the patio, framed with rusted rebar, softened by gravel, circled by stone. But in that simplicity lives something profound. I didn't buy anything new. I gathered scrap, old bolts, heavy with rust, broken pieces of construction steel, disregarded, forgotten, and yet, here they are, reimagined, redefining stillness. Each bolt, once a symbol of brute force, now becomes a point of peace, arranged in careful spirals around a bed of raked sand. The rhythm of those spirals isn't for beauty alone. It's for breath, for presence. I bent rebar, gently, intentionally, into arcs that reach skyward, not to support weight, but to frame stillness. A gesture of grace, carved in metal. There are no fountains here, no color blooms to steal the eye. Just moss, white gravel, a few small plants, dwarf bamboo, miniature sedum, delicate companions in a quiet world. In the center, a stone rests, weathered, unmoving, the kind of stillness that reminds you what doesn't shift, can still hold meaning. That's what I love about this space. It's not trying to impress. It's simply offering refuge. And you can build this too. From rebar left behind. From bolts no longer needed. From stillness that's always been waiting, right beneath the noise. Because peace doesn't come from what's perfect. It comes from what's present. Eight, hanging planters using used bike rims and wires for small patios. There's something beautiful about things that were once forgotten. A quiet redemption, where rust and dust no longer mean uselessness, but potential. In today's transformation, we step into a humble balcony, once empty and unremarkable, now softly blooming with greenery that floats, almost as if suspended in midair. But look closer, and you'll see the magic lies in the unexpected. Salvaged bicycle rims, old, worn, and curved with memory, turned into minimalist planters that breathe new life into this tiny space. Each rim cradles a small world. Basil, oregano, and mint dance in the breeze. Some spill gently, cascading like waterfalls of green. Others sit proud and bushy, grateful for their second chance. Wire is the invisible thread that connects them all, twisted by hand, shaped with intention, strong in simplicity. What's special about this idea isn't just its beauty, it's how accessible it is. No large backyard? No problem. These vertical planters are perfect for narrow patios or balconies, making the most of the air instead of the ground. They're practical, creative, and require almost no space. Just a few hooks, a couple of rims, and the courage to begin. Look at the second photo. A rusty pipe becomes the frame, and the hanging rims sway gently in the filtered light. There's a softness to it, an invitation to sit, sip tea, and listen to leaves rustle. In the third, the rims hold bursts of pink and white petunias. Tucked under a wooden pergola, their circular rhythm brings order and calm, like notes in a visual melody. And this is where design meets soul. These are not just garden elements. They are symbols of hope, reuse, and beauty in what others discard. So if you've got a broken bicycle, or know someone tossing one aside, pause. That will still turns, just in a different way now. Let this be your inspiration. Let these ideas find a place in your own space. With a little imagination, even a scrap can bloom. Nine, DIY garden tool holder from door hinges and broken TV frames. Some might walk past a broken TV and see only a relic of flickering static and forgotten shows. But in my eyes, the discarded metal casing wasn't trash. It was a ready-made canvas waiting to be repurposed. That's how this project began, with a hollowed television frame, weathered and scarred by time. I mounted it against a wooden shed wall, not to display pictures, but to showcase tools, each one resting perfectly between upcycled door hinges repurposed as hooks. The rigid geometry of the frame was softened by the warmth of the wood backdrop and the character of the tools it now held. It's oddly poetic, isn't it? That a frame once used to project stories now holds the tools that cultivate new ones. Every spade, every fork hanging from its edge tells a story of seeds planted, soil turned, dreams nurtured. DIY inspiration for you. If you ever find yourself surrounded by items once deemed useless, a rusty hinge, a broken screen, an orphaned screw, pause before discarding. Ask yourself, what new role could this play? You don't need a workshop, just a vision and a willingness to let materials guide your hands. The key is function wrapped in nostalgia. Even the most mundane item, a bent nail or leftover bracket, can find a new rhythm when placed with purpose. In this corner garden, nothing is new, and yet everything feels alive. Repurposed materials now breathe with intention. Tools are no longer lost or buried in clutter. Instead, they hang proudly, each with their own space, each contributing to a garden that is both beautiful and built with soul. Beside the frame rests a stool made of reclaimed wood, and nearby a watering can stands at attention. The whole space feels like a gentle invitation to pause, to work, and to dream, anchored by elements that once had a different life. In a world that moves fast and discards faster, it is here, in these reclaimed, restful corners, that we are reminded. Redemption is everywhere, even in junk metal, even in the frame of an old TV, and maybe, just maybe, in ourselves. 10. Vintage Seascape art wall using circuit boards and Parabola dish. Step into a corner of my garden where the tide never retreats, where the sea is not made of water, but of wires, circuits, and old forgotten machines. It began with a box of discarded electronics. Motherboards, broken satellite parts, old processors, pieces of a past life meant to be buried in rust and dust. But as I looked at their complex paths and green-veined beauty, I didn't see junk. I saw motion, energy. I saw waves. And so, with a simple wall as my canvas, I painted an ocean without paint. Each ripple of the sea was carefully composed with broken circuit boards, layered in arcs to mimic the graceful curl of surf. Their metallic sheen catches the daylight just right, as if they shimmer like the real thing under a summer sun. The satellite dish, repainted in crisp white, became my rising sun, casting imaginary rays over a synthetic sea. In another frame, driftwood encases a swirling breaker, while glinting screws and salvaged wires radiate outward like a sunburst. Even rusted nails and drill bits found their purpose here, rising like rays of hope from this digital tide. Every texture tells a story of technology, decay, and rebirth. Want to try this at home? It's more meditative than you'd expect. No soldering or electronics knowledge needed. Just patience, imagination, and some adhesive strong enough to hold history in place. Use a piece of plywood or an old fence panel. Begin with one board. Then build your waves from there. Let the imperfections guide you. Crooked chips, snapped edges, cracked solder lines, all of it adds character. You're not aiming for perfection. You're honoring a story. The magic here is how something cold and obsolete, machine relics, can evoke such organic emotion. It's a meeting of two forgotten worlds, nature and machine, soil and silicon. A commentary on our times, yes, but also a reminder that even the discarded can find grace. And the best part? It's fully weatherproof. These components were built to last, even in harsh conditions. Just make sure to seal your backdrop and mount securely. Add potted greenery around the edges, maybe a vertical herb garden or wild ivy creeping in, and you'll have your own private art gallery, powered by nothing more than your imagination. This isn't just decoration, it's restoration. A piece of digital driftwood that turned into a lighthouse of creativity. So if you ever find yourself with a box of broken gadgets or a wall that feels a bit too quiet, remember the sea waits. And maybe, just maybe, you'll hear the waves in your own backyard. (11) DIY garden swing frame with leftover metal rack frames and drum. In a forgotten corner of the backyard, where weeds once whispered secrets to rusted debris, I saw potential. The skeleton of an old metal rack, abandoned and weary, stood against the shed like a relic of function long lost. Nearby, a discarded steel drum lay dented and faded, its once industrial purpose now erased by time. And so began the quiet alchemy of repurposing. What if this wasn't just junk? What if this could move, could cradle joy? With patience and sparks of imagination, I welded and bolted, lifted and leveled. The metal rack frames found new life as a sturdy A-frame, and that halved steel drum? It swung into place as the seat, unexpectedly charming, comfortably industrial. Strong chains now hold it midair, swaying gently above a pebble-dusted floor, surrounded by a symphony of potted greens and flowering bushes. In the golden hour, the sunlight softens the edges of metal and rust, turning cold utility into warm invitation. Some evenings, I come here just to sit, to sway softly and listen to the garden breathe around me. Roses exhaling their sweetness, the wind tracing gentle notes through leaves. It's a stillness that feels earned. Not every garden swing needs wood and polish. Sometimes, steel and salvage tell a better story. One of resilience. One of reinvention. Tip to try. If you're inspired to build your own swing, don't seek perfection. Seek balance. Use what you already have. Old gym equipment frames, scaffolding poles, or even thick wooden beams can work wonders. And the seat? Let your creativity guide you. A barrel, a pallet, even a car seat. Just make it safe and make it yours. Because gardens aren't just for growing plants. They're for growing stories. And sometimes, those stories swing softly in the breeze. "12. Fence border lights from dead bulbs and rusty exhaust ends. In a quiet corner of the garden, as twilight gently brushes its soft hues over petals and pebbles, something unexpected begins to shimmer. Light blooming not from designer fixtures, but from forgotten things. Dead bulbs, once discarded and dull, are now aglow in warm amber tones. Their second life begins inside rusty exhaust pipe ends, cut, sanded, and shaped into elegant sleeves. Once part of a machine's throat, they now whisper only warmth. The bulbs, cleverly wired and nestled into place, radiate a soft, nostalgic light, as though remembering every place they've once illuminated. And there, lining a modest fence, they guide a garden path like fireflies suspended in time. The poles, simple wood, bear their rusted companions proudly. Between them, flowers lean in, vines curl upward, and stones crunch underfoot with an earthy hush. What's stunning isn't just how beautiful it looks, it's how accessible it is. This idea, upcycling industrial metal with broken bulbs, requires only the gentlest tools and a creative heart. A drill, a wire cutter, a few solar cells or battery adapters. The rest is about seeing beauty where others see waste. Rust doesn't just mean decay here, it means character, texture, a history that's been preserved in your backyard instead of buried in a landfill. If you try this at home, remember, symmetry is less important than storytelling. Let each fixture lean a little, differ in height, or glow at its own pace. Their imperfections become charm. Their glow, intimacy. As night deepens, the scene transforms. The border becomes a frame for living art. Flowers in silhouette, with grain etched by shadows, and metal that sings softly under moonlight. You don't need a sprawling garden for this to work. Even a narrow walkway, a balcony fence, or the edge of a herb bed will do. Let this be a gentle reminder. Your garden doesn't need perfection. It needs presence, thought, a bit of courage to turn scraps into sanctuary. Because beauty often blooms in the places we thought were broken. "13. DIY bird feeder made from remote control and metal gears. In the quiet rhythm of a leafy garden corner, an unlikely harmony has taken flight. Where others saw the end of utility, in forgotten remote controls and rusted metal cogs, I saw a gentle invitation to craft something small, yet full of meaning. It began with a single plank and 2 remote controls, once silenced and left behind. Fixed upon the wood, they became steady platforms. Then came the gears, tiny wheels from clocks and old machines, delicate yet full of memory. I arranged them like petals around a mechanical flower, circling the edges of the tray, offering not only style but tiny perches for feathered guests. Birds came slowly at first, curious of this odd contraption. But as the days passed, their hesitation gave way to delight. Now, each morning, the feeder becomes a stage, a gathering of chirps and fluttering wings, where nature meets the remnants of human invention. Look closely, and you'll see more than just a feeder. You'll find a bridge between discarded technology and thriving life. A place where the past clicks quietly into the present. An art piece that sings not just to birds, but to the soul. If you're inspired to try this, begin simply. A wooden base, some hanging wire, and a couple of old remotes or phone handsets are enough. Use screws or epoxy to fasten them securely. Old gears, washers, and nuts add charm, while birdseed provides the real invitation. The best part? No two feeders are ever the same. Just like the birds who visit them, each one tells a slightly different story. And so, with nothing more than a few forgotten objects and a bit of imagination, a small space becomes a sanctuary. A reminder that beauty isn't always born from perfection. It often begins with what we choose not to throw away. (14) Garden bench from broken ladder and old door wood. In a world of fast replacements and short-lived furniture, I chose a slower path, one where worn wood and rusted hinges whisper stories rather than end up in the landfill. What you see here began as remnants, an old door discarded in the corner of a renovation site, and a broken wooden ladder too frail to climb but too honest to ignore. The kind of pieces most people walk past without a second glance. I didn't see waste. I saw a bench waiting to be born. With the grain of the door panel still proud, chipped but not defeated, I began. I lay the door flat, securing it with crossbeams beneath to distribute weight. The ladder, split and steady, gave the piece its legs, a nod to the past that once helped someone reach for more. I left the original lock plate and keyhole intact, not for function but for charm. A relic of its first life, now guarding a quiet moment under a tree. In the next version, I embraced a different form. The door stood tall this time, becoming a backrest rich with time-worn carvings. Its peeling layers told of rainstorms and sunrises long gone. With armrests crafted from leftover fence posts and seat panels reinforced from old shelving planks, a new shape took place, one made not for grandeur, but for comfort, contemplation, and conversation. And in a final piece, built with simplicity in mind, I left the wood mostly untouched. A straight bench with a slatted back, smoothed only where the weather had been unkind. Positioned under the shade of a sturdy tree, it's a place where silence is welcomed, and the rhythm of birdsong becomes the soundtrack of your afternoon. DIY tips for you. If this stirred something in you, you don't need a full workshop to begin. You need only an old door, check salvage yards or neighbors doing renovations, a handsaw, screws, and a bit of sandpaper. Use the ladder sides as legs or repurpose old table legs if available. Let the wood remain rough. Its imperfections are its poetry. And remember, paint is optional, but a coat of linseed oil can protect while enhancing every grain and groove. Add a cushion, place it near blooms or beneath dappled light, and suddenly, your junk becomes joy. Let this be a quiet revolution, one bench at a time, because even the most forgotten pieces can hold you beautifully. (15) outdoor speaker planter from damaged speaker and CPU parts. There's a kind of quiet music in the way plants grow, a rhythm without a beat, a melody that doesn't need to be heard, only felt. And one day, standing among a pile of rusted circuits and a forgotten speaker cabinet, I asked myself a simple question. What if the silence of broken tech could bloom again? In the corner of my backyard, nestled against the fence, is a speaker that no longer booms with bass. Instead, it overflows with life. Where once it projected sound, now it cradles succulents and vines. Tiny leaves spill from hollow control panels, soft greens weaving through what used to be wires, now transformed into hanging threads of living sculpture. I carved into the speaker's body gently, keeping its face intact, so that it would still resemble what it was, even as it became something new. I tucked a small trailing vine through the old volume knob. I filled the cavity with fresh soil, then planted vibrant pansies in one, and sun-soaked marigolds in another. CPU fans and circuit boards became more than just visual nods to the machine's past. They framed the plants with contrast and character, blending digital decay with organic renewal. What surprised me was how perfectly it worked. Speakers, after all, are built to be hollow and sturdy, ideal vessels for holding soil and keeping moisture in check. The metal backplates and foam-lined enclosures provide insulation, while the cutouts allow roots to breathe. With just a little thought and a lot of heart, an object designed for volume became a sanctuary for silence and growth. You can try this, too. Find an old speaker, or even the casing from a computer. Strip it down, clean it gently, and let your imagination grow wild. Think of what shape your flowers might take against the starkness of wire and chip. Do you want cascading vines? Or bold, upright blooms that stand like little flags of resilience? This isn't just about recycling. It's about storytelling. About giving every object, every forgotten piece of metal, a second chapter. And now, when I sit nearby with a cup of tea in the quiet hours of the morning, I sometimes hear a faint hum, not from the speaker, but from the bees exploring marigold petals, from the wind brushing across trailing leaves. It's a new kind of song, one that never needed electricity. (16) DIY decorative gazebo top from old satellite antenna and screws. There once was a time when this great parabolic disc searched the skies, catching echoes of distant voices, far-off satellites, and signals from invisible places. But like many forgotten technologies, it was left to rust, its purpose outdated, its presence overlooked. Until one day, it was seen not as waste, but as possibility. Nestled now in the heart of a blooming backyard, this old satellite dish has found new life, not as a receiver of signals, but as a giver of shade, intimacy, and serenity. Suspended gracefully atop a handmade timber frame, its once harsh metal curves now cradle warm sunlight and clinging vines. What once captured data now captures beauty. The transformation is quiet yet profound. With a few bolts, weathered screws, and salvaged brackets, the structure was reborn, a sculptural canopy that stands both rustic and futuristic. Surrounding it, the garden flourishes, gently hugging the wooden legs of the gazebo like nature reclaiming the forgotten. Beneath its dome, two humble chairs and a circular table invite conversation, stillness, morning tea, or a silent evening read. And the best part? Anyone can build this haven. You don't need expensive materials. Just an eye for potential in what others discard. Find an old satellite dish, often given away for free, and reinforce it with reclaimed wood or steel. Anchor it well, let vines climb and time settle in. Add solar lanterns underneath for magic after sunset. This isn't just a shelter. It's a poetic pause, a sculptural celebration of reuse. In your tiny backyard, great beauty can rise, not from buying new things, but from reimagining the old. If this video meant something to you, please know that subscribing means the world to me. You're not just supporting content, you're supporting a dream that keeps my family going. Thank you, truly. I'd also love to hear from you. What did you enjoy the most? Is there anything I could do better to keep inspiring or simply entertaining you? Your feedback helps this channel grow with heart and purpose. Let me know in the comments. I read every one.